Next thing, after your decking, is what? Your handrail. Handrail goes up. And that's where most of the people want to know what's happening out there. Okay, anybody know what this is? I didn't think so. Guys, these are called directions, instructions. This is our Bible here. Anytime we're using a new product, read, read, read. But I'm going to tell you just a few key notes on there besides all the directions. They really have a good set of directions. Here's all the hardware that comes with it. You got stainless steel screws and all your clips. Everything's got to be pretty precise when it comes to putting this handrail with this hidden fastener. So we're going to put a handrail right in between here. First thing we want to do is measure our opening. And these sleeves will slide around a little bit. So you pick up your happy medium. Because there's not much play, but there is a little bit of play. So you pick up your happy medium, and then you go to the saw and cut it. No, not right away. We got to do a bit of pre-planning. And here's what I mean by the pre-planning. Taking the measurement of that opening, there's two ways I want my balusters to lay out. I've already got factory cuts or factory holes. They're spaced out at every 5 inches. So either I'm going to center one of the holes in that opening and then hope that I have an even amount on each side that looks good or presentable. Or I'm going to take the holes, divide that in half, so that's 5, that's 2.5 inches. And I'm going to use my center that way. Everything is laid out for you. You got all the screws. I'm not going to get really involved in screwing everything out because it's pretty easy. But here's some of the tips here. These two end pieces here, you leave loose. We call them swing ballisters. They're actually 3/8 shorter than the rest of my ballisters. And the reason for that is with the hidden hardware, if I had this installed, it's really hard to get in here to fasten this hardware. So they recommend that you just swing it out of the way, get the hardware in place, put this back, and then you figure, well, how am I going to, what's going to hold that in place? Well, the way the brackets are done, the brackets aren't, this is why you cut them 3/8 short. There's a bracket that screws onto the baluster, and you can see it right here. Can you see it? They're on both sides. The screw now goes through here and into your top handrail. And that's what holds it in place. So your handrail, this is your top cap. This basically slides over. That slides over like that. And the reason we're installing the screws up is to get rid of the rock. That's the only reason. So you run the screw through here, up through this last baluster, probably one in the center, and that'll keep that nice and flat. So by the time it's all said and done, this is what you're looking at. So that's the easy part of doing the handrail. The hardest part now is figuring out the rake. How do you figure out where that handrail goes? Here it's easy. It's 36 inches off your finished deck. I've already got the finished product here. I can go up 36 inches, there it is. All right, the other rake ends up at 36 or 34 to 38 inches. All right. Well, according to my tape, there's 34 inches right there. Is that right? Anybody? No? Okay, thank you. It's got to be off the nosing, vertically up 34 inches. Okay, so, which does not mean that I come out here and I go, well, it's still 34 inches. No, we go off the rake. And the best way to do that it's 34 inches off that angle right there, the rake angle. So now it's 34 inches off this imaginary angled line. So now you measure from this point right here. I'm going to draw this out so we can kind of see it. So now you measure 34 inches from this point to there, and it ends up about right there. That's almost a difference of about 2 inches just in this distance of measuring the 34. There's where a lot of people make the mistake the first time. They measure it right off this flat surface. And then they end up having to do the rail again and again. Now here's the other thing. Newel post. Do you put it on your first step or do you put it out here on your concrete? First step? Okay. Nothing wrong. There's no wrong answers here. Okay. According to the code, that's illegal. And the reason is, in California, they're really strict about this. It looks better, I think, if it's on that first step, but it's not the code. The code reads that your handrail going up the rake has to be minimum from riser to riser. So if I have my first newel here, my first riser is way ahead of it. You're illegal. But no matter where that newel is at, that you place, you have to figure out a length somehow. And it's really hard to figure out a length, especially when we use these center holes as a guide. We got to center these rails. So how are you going to do all that at the same time while you're thinking of measuring? It's like, you know what? Don't even worry about measuring. I usually get a scrap of something. Okay. I'm going to turn my laser on, and I'm going to line that up. And this is a number that you're going to want to remember. And it's approximately 35 degrees. And that's a typical stair. They're usually 34 to 37 is about a typical set of stairs that's properly built. Anything steeper, the higher the number, obviously, the steeper it's going to be. So I'm just going to make this cut. Okay, since we don't have a newel out there, we're going to just use an example here. Let's say this is from newel to newel. One way that I found that always works really well is, let's find the center of this. Yeah, let's see, about 22 and a quarter. This would be, if I had a newel here, and a newel out here where it should be, according to code, my center's right here. Why do I care? Because I need to lay out the ballisters so they're even on both sides. So the same theory of centering would be, do you use a hole, depending on how close you are here, or do you center in between the holes? Once you've got that figured out, all you have to do is mark the ballisters, or mark the rails. And in this case, this is the bottom, and this is the top with the cap. So what you do at that time is, once you have those figured out on where your marks are going to go, the top, still the same angle. I'm not changing it. Just make one quick, you cut both of those together at the same time. You're going to cut the bottom also on this side here. Do the same thing with those. So when you lay everything together, now you're going to have ballisters to deal with. Okay, what's the angle? It's the same angle that I've been cutting everything at. This angle is equivalent to the angle of the ballisters. So just to make this quick, So you would cut, obviously not this short, but you would cut your balusters to your length, depending on where the 34 to 38 works out to. And then it's a matter of everything's being assembled. You assemble your top, your bottom, and everything will look kind of like this. So when you lay it on your set of stairs, it now looks plumb. It'll be plumb. Everything's worked off that one angle. When it comes to the angle, get it in there.